Our last topic is movie clips, and we're going to explore the difference between an animated graphic symbol and an animated movie clip. Let's review a couple things just to wrap our head around symbols and the different types and go from there. So remember that when you're making a symbol, whether you're making it from scratch or converting something that's on the stage, there's three different types of symbols that you can have. You can have a graphic symbol, which is what we've used the most of. You can have buttons, which we've looked at, and then the new topic will be movie clips. Let's get the review of a button out of the way, since that's probably the one we use the least of in here, and it's pretty straightforward. So if we go into our library, we go to the button that we made, we double click on it, we can see the thing that's really different about buttons is that they do indeed have a timeline, but that timeline only has 4 frames, which are actually states of the button. Let me get back out on the main timeline here, and let me find one of the first animated symbols that we came across. And that would be our car with the blinking headlights. And so the way we got there is we made the car from basic shapes, converted it into a symbol, and then we went into the symbol, and that's where we drew the lights. So this symbol is made up of 2 different layers, and actually what's happening here is really a form of frame-by-frame animation. There's no tweens, we just have the lights on for about 4 frames and then the lights off for say 7 or 8 frames. Very similar to the blinking lights on the truck or the car was the blinking light on the UFO. Then we discovered that we had this fade in, fade out, or actually just the opposite, fade out, fade in, that we created on the main timeline. And we discovered that we could select these frames and paste them into a symbol from scratch. And by symbol from scratch, what I mean is we didn't draw an object on the stage first, select it, and hit F8. We wanted to take some animation that was already done. So we went up to Insert, New Symbol, or Command F8, and then we made our fade reuse. So if we click on that, we can see that it's exactly what was on the timeline here. Hard to tell what's going on because the thing that's being animated is the same exact color as the background, but if we look at it on the main stage, we can see that this happening here on the main stage, although it's more evident on the main stage what is happening there, when it happens again as a symbol, it does exactly the same thing, and it's very easy to reuse that. Drop it down here. Another thing that this symbol helped us learn about is that the timeline on the main timeline here and the timeline on the symbol are very much interconnected. So in other words, they should last the same exact amount of time if we only want to see one sequence of that symbol. If, for example, we extended this out, what would happen is we would get our fade out, our fade in, and then we would start to get our fade out and our fade in again. We learned that we can have an animated symbol that has a shape tween inside of it, which is exactly what this guy is. In fact, it has both. It has down here on this layer, it has the shape tween, and then on the layer that you can see right now, it has a classic tween. So anything that you can do on the main timeline, pretty much, you can do behind the scenes inside of an animated symbol. We learned here that when we draw new things inside of an animated symbol, like the face, it's just like drawing them out on the main timeline, meaning that if we want to then give them a classic tween, they should first become a symbol, which is why in our library we have this symbol called face. Copied and pasted some items in from Illustrator, which when you paste an object, vector graphics from Illustrator in here, it shows up in the properties as a drawing object, which is almost like just a regular shape. And we did a F8 and converted this one to a symbol. And then when we got to the person, we did the same thing, converted it to a symbol, but when we wanted to do some animations for that inside of the library, we realized that once we click on it and we're inside the library, it again is not a symbol inside of the library. It's whatever it was, and what it was a drawing object, so we had to convert it to a symbol to get the rocking motion. And that's the inside of our person symbol, classic tween, amongst 3 different keyframes. Very hard to see the white against the light blue. All of the ways that you've just seen that we can create from scratch or take things that we've already used to make an animated graphic symbol, we can do the exact same thing with a movie clip. They look the same inside. The big difference on the movie clip is that it is timeline independent, which takes us to a quiz question. An animated movie clip is timeline independent. Let's make a new document to do this work in, and we'll start by putting the text in. Okay, so I made a new layer in here called text, brought the text in from the project sheet or the project page, and let's go ahead and make a layer for our graphic symbol, and then let's bring an instance of that out. And we may as well use what we already have, which is our person. Oh, but we've got to get a copy of that, or we could create a brand new one, but what the heck, let's just go to our working document, grab that person, make a copy, and we'll bring it into this document. Okay, so I just went out to the other document, just simply clicked on the person, did an edit copy, came back into this document, did an edit paste, and you can see it brought up the 2 related symbols, both the static person inside the symbol and the animated symbol. And let's go ahead and make a couple changes here. First of all, I'll grab the freeform selection tool here, hold down the shift key, make the person a little bit bigger, and then let's also put a different colored tint on here so it shows up against the background. I'll just double click on the tint here, click on this, bring this up, and let's just try to find, like, somewhat of a skin tone here, and probably right between the orange and the red, and then we'll work on with the slider here. That looks good. Now the only thing is we want these to look exactly the same, so we probably should copy this so we can use it later. So I'll Command C, click OK, and then what I'll do is I'll go over to my text layer here, and since nothing's going on that text layer, I'll just come over here and I'm going to click with my text tool, and I'm going to Command V and paste that in there. That'll remind me where it is, because obviously I won't want to leave it there. In fact, I'll move it more in the middle here. Okay, so now let's extend some frames. Went to 4 seconds here, and if I do a command return, we can see we have our animated graphic symbol, and it's doing what we expect. Now let's go ahead and put our movie clip in there. So I'm going to go ahead and make another layer for that. And I've already told you that everything that you've already learned about making animated symbols holds true for making or creating movie clips. So since we want the exact same thing, but we just want it to be a movie clip, we could go through and do it the hard way and create this from scratch, doing exactly what we did in here, only selecting movie clip. Or here's a shortcut. We can go right to the library. We can make sure we have the right one, which would be this one here. And we can right click on it. We can select duplicate. And then let's give it a name that makes more sense. We'll just add MC to the end of it. And we'll change its type to movie clip. So now that should be identical, and if we're not sure, we can find out by double clicking on it, looking inside, and we can say, yep, everything is exactly the same there. Let's get back to the main stage. Let's bring out an instance of this, and now let's get this identical, just so that we're doing a nice apples to apples comparison. Well, really it's going to be an apples to oranges comparison. So first thing would be the size. I'll click on this one, go to properties, and it tells me what the height is right here. So let me just double click in here, do a Command C, click over to this one, make sure that lock is locked, double click, do a Command V, paste that in there, hit the return key, and then we just had to take care of getting the tint over the top to be the same. So with that selected, we'll come into Object, we'll go to Color Effects, we'll go to Tint, we'll double click in. Oh, it looked like it remembered it for us, but if it didn't, we would just double click in here and we would put that swatch that we had, we'd copy it from here and paste it into here. I'm not sure what happened here when I pasted the size, so let's try that one more time. We'll go back over to this one, click in here with a copy, click over on our movie clip, double click in here, do a Command V for a paste, hit return. Now they look the right size. And we'll even align them by selecting both and clicking on that option there, and then using the arrows, get them about the right distance apart. We can now get rid of that. Make sure that they're each on their own layer. There's our animated graphic symbol. There's our animated movie clip. If we Command return, you should see that other than probably the jittery playback that you're getting because of the recording software, they're relatively the same. To really see the power of the movie clip, we need the stop. But I think no sense putting the stop in here. Let's go ahead and do that in the main production file. So I'm going to select these, cut them or copy them, and then we'll paste them in our main production. Alright, so that is now pasted in the main document, and of course we're going to talk about this more, the fact that why is that animated movie clip not working? Don't worry about that yet. Let's go ahead, go up to our actions, and in the very last frame here we're going to put a stop. So remember, actions have keyframes. We just go ahead, put F7 in there. We can right click, select actions, and a stop is just the word stop. Don't capitalize the S. Open and close parenthesis and a semicolon. Now, that's going to take a long time for us to get there. So to speed things up, I'm going to click over on frame 1, and I'm going to change this button that I had in here that right now says go to and play 340. Let's see, where do we want it to go to and play? Somewhere near the end here. Let me figure that out. I'm going to go with 685. I'll do Command return. And we'll click this button and it should jump us to the end. And there we go. And we should be coming up on that stop right now. Okay, so that is the power. I thought it stopped there. That is the power of an animated movie clip. That it is totally timeline independent. As long as there is a spot on the main timeline, in other words, as long as it exists, it will keep playing. So you just have to think about it like this, that the timeline was going along. Let me close up actions here. The timeline was moving along. It got to here and it encountered a stop. But in that preview, it's still alive. Like everything is still happening. We're just at a stop. We could be at a stop because it's the end of the animation, which is true here. But we could have just hit a stop and are waiting for someone to click on a button to take us somewhere else, like maybe on a website, or could be an animation, could be a website, could be a lot of different things, could be a game. But the key thing is everything's still happening here, and that's why we still see that movie clip moving around. So that's pretty darn interesting. And you might be thinking, well, why would there even be a such thing as an animated graphic symbol if the movie clip is so much more interesting? And here's probably the biggest downfall of the animated movie clip. Since it is timeline independent, when we scrub our main timeline with our playhead, it doesn't move. So if you were trying to take an animated symbol and you wanted one that you could see what was happening, like let's say you wanted this guy to kick a ball, and you probably put the ball about right there, you'd have no idea where to put it with the animated symbol because you don't get that type of a preview right here in the timeline. Very close to finishing up here. Let's go ahead and put in that last little bit of text. So I'll go on the same text layer. I'll do a F6 here so that that still shows. And then up at the top, I'll paste it in like this for me, but that's no problem. I can just keep making this wider and wider. I changed its color to red. In the next video, we're going to finish up the actions in the buttons, so it's the same as the demo that I made. It's very important that you do your actions one action at a time and test. So make sure you finish up this action at the end, which is just simply a stop, but I'll show you why in the next movie that you want to work that way.